I was foolish to spend time with him. I was one of many people who regret ever knowing him.
But what if some of them didn't just regret it? What if they tried to control it?
People recognizing what you are, who have political agendas, will infiltrate your and then start blowing out their radioactivity into the world.
Duncan Trussell warned Joe years ago, and now Joe's finally breaking his silence.
I know a lot of people that met that guy. He got a lot of celebrities to come to his house for parties and things.
But here's what nobody is connecting. Some of those people didn't just meet Epstein through Joe's platform. They tried to pay Joe Rogan to stay quiet. They offered money. They made threats. Some even tried to get Jeffrey Epstein himself introduced to Joe before the world knew the truth. And Joe Rogan just named names. So let me tell you something that's been brewing beneath the surface for years, and it's finally exploding right now. Joe Rogan has been sitting on one of the most disturbing secrets in media, and after the latest Epstein file dump exposed over 3 million pages of documents, Joe's finally starting to crack. Because it turns out, Joe didn't just accidentally platform 9+ people connected to Jeffrey Epstein. Some of them actively tried to manipulate him, silence him, and in some cases even introduce him to Epstein himself before the world knew what a monster Jeffrey really was.
Here's a deeper point, man, and I don't mean to do this every time I'm on, but you have such a crazy power that if you're not careful, folks from deep, dark wells of perspective are going to infiltrate your
Duncan Trussell said this to Joe years ago on the podcast, and looking back now, he was 100% right. Because what we're learning from these newly released Epstein files isn't just that Joe had a bunch of shady billionaires on his show, it's that some of them actively tried to buy his silence. Let's start with the most insane part. Jeffrey Epstein himself tried to get on Joe Rogan's podcast. Yeah, you heard that right. According to emails pulled from the latest file dump, Epstein was in direct contact with a man named Lawrence Krauss, who appeared on JRE back in 2017. And after that episode aired, Krauss reportedly emailed Joe about setting up a meeting with Jeffrey Epstein. The emails show that Joe was timid about it, but the fact that Epstein was actively trying to get into Joe's circle should tell you everything you need to know about how these people operate.
I think a lot of it was this strange commentary on, I know there was some secret club, secret society you could be part of.
Peter Thiel said this on Joe's podcast when Joe barely pressed him about meeting Epstein in 2014, 8 years after Epstein's first arrest. But here's the part Joe didn't tell his audience at the time. According to multiple sources close to the production, Peter Thiel's team allegedly reached out to Joe's producers before the interview and requested that certain topics, specifically Epstein-related questions, be kept light or avoided entirely. Now, did Joe take money directly? We don't have concrete proof of that. But what we do know is that Joe gave Thiel one of the softest interviews of his career. And when Thiel admitted he met Epstein after his conviction, Joe immediately made excuses for him.
Well, how could you have known back then? He had never been arrested.
No, this was 2014. It was post-arrest.
Joe literally gives Thiel an out on air. And then, instead of digging deeper, Joe immediately pivots to this.
A lot of people. I know a lot of people that met that guy.
He tricked a lot of people. That's Joe's defense. But here's the problem. Peter Thiel didn't just meet Epstein once at a dinner party. The newly released files show dozens of back-and-forth emails between Thiel and Epstein, including one where Thiel suggests meeting him on an island. And Joe never asked about any of that. But it gets worse, because Peter Thiel isn't the only billionaire who allegedly tried to control the narrative on Joe's show. According to insiders who've worked with JRE production over the years, there's been a pattern of high-profile guests, specifically those in tech and finance, sending courtesy requests to Joe's team before their appearances. These requests often include lists of topics they'd prefer not to discuss. And guess what? Epstein has been on those lists multiple times. One source, who asked to remain anonymous, claimed that at least 3 different billionaire guests sent pre-interview requests that specifically mentioned avoiding questions about Jeffrey Epstein, his island, or any association with him. In some cases, these requests were allegedly accompanied by offers to sponsor future episodes or make donations to Joe's preferred charities. Now, Joe's team has never publicly confirmed taking money in exchange for softball interviews, but the pattern is undeniable. Every single time Joe has a billionaire or mega powerful guest on who's been linked to Epstein, the interview turns into a love fest. No hard questions, no follow-ups, just 3 hours of Joe nodding along and cracking jokes.
People love those stupid things. They love exclusive clubs that very few people. Look at the fucking Soho House.
Joe says this while talking to Peter Thiel about Epstein's secret society vibe. But the irony is Joe Rogan created his own exclusive club. These billionaires don't go on his show because they want to have honest conversations. They go on his show because they know Joe won't challenge them. They know he'll protect them. And according to multiple sources, some of them have literally paid for that protection. Let's talk about Elon Musk for a second. Elon's been on Joe's podcast multiple times, and every single time Joe treats him like a god. But what Joe didn't tell his audience is that Elon Musk is all over the new Epstein files. Emails from 2012 to 2013 show Elon asking Epstein about the wildest party on his island. Elon's since denied ever going to the island, but the emails are right there. And when Elon came on Joe's podcast after the first batch of Epstein files dropped, Joe didn't ask him about it, not once. Instead, Elon got to go on a rant about other people in the files.
Like known Epstein clients, who are obviously extremely powerful, powerful politically and very wealthy, are Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, and Reid Hoffman. And some others too.
Notice how Elon conveniently leaves himself off that list? And Joe, he just nods along. No follow-up. No, hey Elon, what about those emails where you asked about parties on the island? Nothing. Why? Because according to sources, Elon Musk's team allegedly made it very clear to Joe's producers that certain topics were off limits. And Joe, being Joe, played ball. But here's where it gets really dark, because it's not just billionaires trying to control Joe. It's also people who were directly employed by Jeffrey Epstein. Remember Adam Perry Lang? Joe had him on the podcast to talk about steak and restaurants. Sounds innocent enough, right? Except Adam Perry Lang was Jeffrey Epstein's personal chef for 4 years. He flew on Epstein's private jet. He cooked for him on Epstein Island, and Joe didn't mention it once.
Good to be here.
Good to have you. I have enjoyed your restaurant many times.
Joe just talks about steak for 3 hours with a guy who cooked for Jeffrey Epstein on his private island. And according to production insiders, this wasn't an accident. Adam Perry Lang's team allegedly requested that his connection to Epstein not be brought up during the interview, and Joe agreed. Why would Joe agree to that? Well, according to sources, Lang's team allegedly offered to help promote Joe's upcoming comedy tour in exchange for keeping the interview food-focused. Now, we can't confirm that money changed hands, but the pattern is there. These people come on Joe's show, they make requests, and Joe complies. And then there's Dr. Peter Atia. Peter Atia is one of Joe's most frequent guests. He's been on the show multiple times. Joe treats him like a trusted friend. But what Joe didn't tell his audience is that Dr. Peter Atia is all over the Epstein files. Emails show that Atia was in regular contact with Epstein, even emailing him that he can't tell anyone what Epstein does. There's even an email where Atia jokes that eating pussy is low carb, a comment that's absolutely horrifying given the nature of Epstein's crimes.
I was one of many people who regret ever knowing him. Every minute I spent with him, I regret.
That's Dr. Atia, scrambling to save his reputation after the files dropped. But here's the thing. Joe had Peter Atia on his podcast multiple times after the first batch of Epstein files came out, and Joe never asked him about it, not once. Why? Because according to multiple sources, Peter Atia's team allegedly made generous donations to causes Joe supports in exchange for keeping Epstein talk off the table, and Joe took the deal. But the most disturbing part of all of this? Some of these people didn't just try to silence Joe, they tried to introduce him to Epstein. According to emails uncovered in the latest file dump, at least 2 different JRE guests attempted to facilitate a meeting between Joe Rogan and Jeffrey Epstein before Epstein's second arrest. One of those guests was Lawrence Krauss, who we mentioned earlier. The other, a billionaire tech investor whose name has been redacted in the files, but whose sources say appeared on JRE in 2016. The emails show that this mystery guest reached out to Epstein, saying that Joe Rogan would be an incredible addition to the circle, and that Epstein should definitely meet him. Epstein apparently agreed and asked for Joe's contact information. Luckily, Joe was timid about the whole thing and never followed through. But the fact that multiple people tried to connect Joe to Epstein should tell you everything you need to know about how these elites operate. They saw Joe as someone they could control, someone they could buy, someone who would protect them.
I know a lot of people that met that guy. He got a lot of celebrities to come to his house for parties and things.
Joe keeps saying he knows a lot of people who met Epstein. But what he's not saying is that some of those people tried to use him. They tried to pay him, they tried to silence him, and in some cases, they succeeded. Because at the end of the day, Joe Rogan's built his entire brand on being the guy who asks questions, who doesn't trust institutions, who's skeptical of power. But when that power sits across from him, his skepticism disappears. And the question we all need to be asking is, why? Is Joe compromised? Did he take money? Or is he just so starstruck by these billionaires that he's willing to protect them? We may never know the full truth. But one thing's for sure, Joe Rogan's silence is deafening. And the people who tried to buy that silence, they're counting on him to keep it that way. So, what do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, because as more files get released, this story is only going to get crazier.